okay, we're done now. I finished my coach training. I'm ready to start my business. Um, but I'm struggling with how to communicate like what I want to do. So this came up a few times recently, but basically what it boils down to is like, how do I create, or what are some tips for putting together an effective mission or vision statement that attracts not just any client, but the type of client I'm trying to work with? And maybe there's other steps before mission and vision that need to happen,
Right.
but
Yeah, it's funny. This came up earlier today as well. And to simplify it, I think that there are three things that a coach needs. Uh, the first is a defined specific audience who they want to work with. And this is more challenging than I think it seems. Most new coaches, when they look at picking a specific audience, feel like they're excluding 95% of all the other people who could be potential clients, and that feels scary. And really, truly, you can only maybe work with 40 to 50 clients at any one time. I mean, at my height, I was working with 40 some clients, and it was a lot. Um, and the the challenge of that from like a pure logistics standpoint is enough. So you're only really could like as a coach, like get in your mind, I'm only working with 40 people. So what specific target audience has more than 40 people in it? Like you start thinking that way, then it's almost like everything opens up. And the benefit of having a specific target audience is then you can tell other people, these are the kind of people I coach. So it improves your networking appeal. It's very hard to network if you are saying, I coach anyone, anything, and let's network that. That's not going to work. So it and networking for me is the primary vehicle. It's what I would use if I were starting out. It's what I used like about halfway through and figured out how this marketing thing really works. Networking is the way to go. So specific audience is one. Two, the pain points of that audience. And if you get the pain points down, then you get people's attention if you're talking about it. Sharpens your marketing, even the way that you're pitching your ideas to people. And so let's say you're networking and you're telling people, this is my target audience. You could say, these are the things I work with people on. These are the 3 pain points. And they can either refer you directly and do practice sessions that way. You can do workshops for them, small presentations, put together some, quick, orientation to coaching course. I mean, there's a lot that you can do if you have those 2 pieces. And usually that's enough for coaches to get started and to attract paying clients. The third one is also a larger idea of the larger vision and mission of what you want to accomplish. And if you can add that and ask yourself from a more universal perspective, let's say that your coaching practice was replicated ad infinitum, like where you could have, let's say you work with, executives who are wanting to have like the perfect work life integration and make a positive difference in the world, right? Like that's your that's your target audience. And then you could, from like a larger standpoint, it's like brainstorming, except it's like edge mapping. Like if you were to take that to the edges, and let's say every single executive who was striving to make a positive difference in the world, were working with a coach, what would that do to the world? What if people coached barbers and hairstylists? And I mean, imagine if every barber and hairstylist were working with a coach. Imagine how like the amazing questions that they would ask their people in chairs. What would that do to society? So you have to edge map it. You have to go to the edges of what's the small thing I'm doing here. If it were replicated, for me, it was working with teachers, working with students. What if every teacher had basic coach training? What if teachers were trained to listen actively, empathy, with curiosity, without judgment, just for periods of time, how would that change the face of education in the world? And that is an um, empathetic mission that helps when things get hard. It helps when a client asks for a refund, or that something comes up in their life, they can't continue the coaching, or you're looking at your monthly statement thinking, okay, like I got to get 2 clients the next 2 weeks. I've been there. I've done that. It's not fun. We were month to month for 2 years living on coaching alone. 2 years looking at, I need to get clients. I need to get some new clients right now. I know this is not a very attractive, like, hey, you want to be a coach? Guess what? Can you go through 2 years of month-to-month financial stress and hardship and all those kinds of things where you have we literally had lawn furniture as our kitchen table for a period of time. So I've been there. I know it. Having that empathetic mission helps you get through those hard things, because I just knew it. I knew I was doing good in the world. I knew the fundamentals were on point. And it really was a matter of figuring out how to network. Then it just tipped. It was like someone just turned on the light or the faucet, and the referrals started pouring in. It really is a hustle. I felt like, to get to 5 clients, 10 clients, 15. But once I got to 15, the referral engine kicked up. And the nice thing about referrals is, because they were referred to you, they're more likely to also refer you.
Right.
And that was surprising to me, pleasantly surprising. So, and then if you want to tell parents, if you want to get a full practice with people, tell people you have a waiting list. Oh my goodness. You tell parents, they hear words waiting list. It's like, okay, I need to instantly sign up. Like, how do I get my child onto the waiting list, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it just started going to the point where I would do an initial interview with students, and it really was a true initial interview where we were both deciding if this would work for each other, or I'd just refer them to another coach. But yeah, that's my advice to new coaches starting out. Answer the question, like, to each of those 3 things. Like, do you have a specific audience? Have you identified their 3 biggest, or 3 pain points? And then, do you have a larger scope, larger vision, mission that encapsulates those other 2?
I
If you
love those
answer
ingredients.
yes, yeah, if you answer yes to all 3, you're probably good to go. If you answer yes to 2 out of 3, you're probably 67% likely to make it. 1 out of 3, 33% chance of gaining your practice.
Right. Right. Well, that's great. I think those are. I love that, the steps. Like, one of the things that I always talk about in classes when people ask me this is, like, actually craft your ideal client. Like, give them a face, a name. Like, what is it that they embody that you can make a difference in them? And a lot of stuff ultimately then flows from there. Like what you were just saying, this is my ideal client. And if this like client shows up, I expect that they're going to talk about this, this, and this, these 3 pain points. And what I want to do with this client is XYZ. Well, that can turn into a mission, or that can turn into a vision. So a lot of it really does start with identifying that target audience, which, you're right, is where coaches often struggle, because they feel like, well, if I'm, focusing too closely. I always tell the bus story. I want to say that either you taught me this, John, or I was in my class, but the bus story I loved, which is, if you're sitting on a bus, I used to ride a bus when I worked in the city, and you're sitting next to someone, they say, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm a coach. Oh, that's really cool. What kind of coaching do you do? Oh, I help people with, solve general problems with their life. And, if they have any issues, I help them work through them. Everybody's going to go, oh, huh, that's pretty cool. And they're never going to see themselves as the person, and they're never really going to think of anyone else. But if I sat down next to if someone sits down next to me in the bus, and I say, oh, I'm a writing coach, and my job, like, specifically what I do is I help new writers find their voice and put that voice on paper so that they can finally share the stories in their head with the world. Everybody's going to think of at least one person they know who has a book or wants to write something, and they're going to potentially refer that person to me. So you automatically put a face in someone's head when you're more specific. So I don't remember if it was you, John, or if it was one of the coaches who told me that story, but I use it all the time in my classes, and I think it makes a really big impact.
Yeah, it was not me, but I love it. That's cool. I mean, it's exactly it. I mean, even when you're describing that story, yeah, like I'm thinking of people in my mind. Everyone listening is thought of someone. When you were saying that story, everyone listening thought of somebody. You know, it's true, and that's the power of a specialty. It really is.
Right.
And then you can make it big on a mission for people to find their voice.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And imagine if that that happened. Like, what are the principles? What are you finding? What are you learning working with this target audience? I mean, these are all. This to me is the exciting field of coaching. This is why I love this field. Is that I feel like it has so much to offer humanity and so much to gain. Like as human beings, it's a privilege and an honor to work in this field, and and it is work. It's sometimes I'm very heavy lifting,
Hmm.
but it's totally worth it and it's incredibly fulfilling. And here we are.